An ultimatum for Russia's Vladimir Putin: end the Ukraine war in 50 days or face 100% secondary tariffs. Donald Trump signalled his loss of patience with Putin in a news briefing alongside NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. The US president spoke of Putin's words and actions being completely opposite on Ukraine. Nice words to Trump, and then bombs raining down on Ukraine's cities. Earlier, a U-turn that could perhaps change the course of Russia's war in Ukraine. Trump confirming he will OK the supply of Patriot missile systems to the Ukrainians. Let's hear from Trump and Rutte of NATO speaking earlier.
We've spent $350 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine, and would like to see it end. It wasn't my war, it was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%.
Ukraine can get its hands on really massive numbers of military equipment, both for air defense, but also missiles, ammunition, etc., etc. So if I was Vladimir Putin today and hear you speaking about what you were planning to do in 50 days and this announcement, I would reconsider whether I should not take negotiations about Ukraine more seriously than I was doing at the moment, if I was Vladimir Putin.
Mark Rutte of NATO. Donald Trump, of course, US President, speaking earlier at the White House. Now, Trump's envoy to Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, has met with Vladimir Zelensky, Ukraine's president. The meeting was described as productive by Zelensky. It came amid speculation the US is about to realign with Ukraine in its fight against Vladimir Putin and Russia's invasion. Later, Kellogg met with Ukraine's defense minister. Sanctions on Russia, part of that conversation. Let's go straight to our correspondent in Kyiv. She is Emmanuelle Chaze, joining us live. Emmanuelle, good evening to you. I'm wondering how the country is reacting to this news about Trump saying he will supply Patriot missile systems. This, of course, is something Ukraine has been asking for such a long time.
Ukraine had been asking for additional Patriot missile systems to secure its skies for ages indeed, and the last 2 weeks were really just something else, Mark. We've had first of this intensification of the strikes of Russia against Ukraine, but also this uncertainty as to the US equipment that may or may not be delivered to Ukraine. 2 weeks ago only, Ukrainians were waking up to the news that the US equipment delivery was halted. We didn't know if that also included Patriot systems or not. Then a few days later, the White House backpedaled and said that those US deliveries would resume, but there was no mention of Patriot systems. They are crucial for Ukrainian air defense to try and fully secure its skies in front of the barrages of drones, of missiles that Russia sends daily against the Ukrainian infrastructures. Russia says that it targets military infrastructure, but we see here on the ground that actually civilian infrastructure and residential buildings are also hit during those strikes. They resulted last week in a number of people dead, dozens injured, and that's a daily occurrence for Ukrainians. So, of course, tonight there's a feeling of relief, even if there is no real clarity as to how many Patriot systems will be sent to Kyiv. Donald Trump said that one country was ready to prepare 17 Patriot missile systems. Ukraine doesn't expect as many to reach its soil. It already has 7 of them. They don't work together at the same time for maintenance reasons, but Kyiv said already in the past it would need at least 10 of those systems in total to be able to secure its skies as much as possible.
It's always deceptive when you're speaking to us, Emmanuelle, because it looks very calm where you are. And of course, it's the night time when the raids happen, when the drones are sent, when the missiles hit, and it all happens all around you. What else has been happening all around you today, of course, is various meetings and Keith Kellogg turning up in Kyiv. Vladimir Zelensky describing that meeting as productive. This is a real change, isn't it, in how things are going? A real sense that things are actually starting to turn around in terms of the relationship between Zelensky, Ukraine, and the Trump administration.
Absolutely. Well, the relationship between Kyiv and Washington has certainly shifted towards something much more mellow than what we witnessed back in February, and that disastrous meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance in the Oval Office. Back then, Ukrainians had lost all faith in America. They thought that Washington had completely let Kyiv down. The past few months have seen, the U.S. slowly coming back towards Kyiv, but things have changed indeed, not only in the tone, which is a bit softer, but also in the nature of the relation between Washington and Kyiv. We see now that Donald Trump got exactly what he wanted. He got Ukraine's allies buying U.S. equipment off Washington to transfer it to Kyiv. So it's no longer a case of the U.S., as he was claiming before, giving away its equipment, but it's really a transactional relation between Washington and Kyiv. In that, he got what he wanted, even if what we've heard in the press conference earlier with Mark Rutte, he really put the emphasis on how disappointed he was that the peace process wasn't following through, that Vladimir Putin was not fair in his actions. But in a sense, Donald Trump got what he wanted, which is he's going to be paid for all the equipment that's going to be sent to Ukraine.
In a sense, that feels a little bit like profiteering, some might say. He would say it's about getting the bottom line right for the United States, but nonetheless for Ukraine. Does this represent, Emmanuelle, a chance of really being able to fight back and push off this increased bombardment coming from Russia?
Well, at least it is a real change to really secure the sky. If nothing else, that means that if indeed there are enough Patriot systems, those barrages of drones, those barrages of missiles will be easier to counter. That being said, there's always the uncertainty as to how many of those systems will indeed reach the Ukrainian ground. We also have to keep in mind that those systems themselves are being targeted by Russia. And to be honest, living here under the bombs, we are here in Kyiv asking ourselves, well, during the lapse of time between this announcement and the arrival of those additional systems, how much more damage will Russia manage to inflict upon Ukraine? Even if most of the drones, most of the missiles are being intercepted indeed by the Ukrainian air defense, there's always a few of them that manage to slip through those interceptions, and which manage to cause extensive damage. And even if indeed around me this is quite deceptive, it is a quiet evening, you can hear the birds, just in a matter of seconds this atmosphere could drastically change. You could hear air raid alerts, and then you could hear drones and explosions.
Indeed, and that is how things are most nights. Emmanuelle, thank you very much for bringing us, as always, insight into what is happening in Kyiv, and of course the analysis of what the other developments mean in terms of what is happening there. Emmanuelle Chaze, our correspondent, watching all matters for us there in Kyiv, capital of Ukraine. We're watching for all developments on the story there.